Okay, we'll call the Parks and Rec meeting to order at 8:38. As Tyler walks in the door, so stand up slowly so he can join us. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Michelle, I trust Michelle Swanson. I trust that you will manage attendance for us. And it appears that we have a quorum. I'm hoping that everybody has had a chance to look at the meeting minutes. It's on October 25th. Yeah. Oh, maybe introductions would be a good thing to do.
At least once.
Okay. How about the new person sitting at the table? Who are you and why are you here?
My name is Matt Kiefer, and I am very new to the Township Board. I ran for the, Township Board position that was
Oh,
vacated.
you're on a board.
Won it, and so I am now here as well. Got sworn in, maybe it was the 20th, I think. So. And now I was. By Dave Meister, I think at the last meeting, it was, he appointed me on the Parks and Rec and also the Harbor Commission.
Oh, okay.
So I'm here to do the best I can to help this process go good.
And I have stories. I've known him 32 years.
Yeah, I used to work
Welcome.
at a couple committees
Welcome.
in the day, in the Manistee era. Well, thank you, yeah.
What?
So I'm learning everyone's names and faces. Some are new, some are not.
How do you spell your last name?
K-I-E.
I-E.
F-E-R.
All right, excellent. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
If you use an email address with one F, he doesn't get it.
I
That's
bet
right.
not.
And I was working on my township email. I was monkeyed around with that thing for hours yesterday again, and I can't get by a certain point. And I don't know if it's because I have an Apple or because it's Microsoft. I don't know.
If you can stay after, I'll look at it.
Okay, and I have been monkeying with this thing because I texted Ed and he's like, yep, your email's now set up. And so there's a way to get through there, but I get to a certain point and I can't get past it.
Let me see if I can figure it out.
So I'm sure there's emails in there that I haven't been able to get to yet.
So with that, hopefully everybody has had an opportunity to look at the meeting minutes from October 25th. And if so, can we either offer a motion to approve or tell me what the edits should be?
I'll offer approve.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Matt seconds. All in favor?
Discussion,
Yes.
can I get on the minutes? I wanna make a little brief report somewhere, and I need to be there before 9:30, because I have to go to my Meals on Wheels response.
So that would be amend agenda.
Yeah.
What we're talking about right now is approving the meeting
Oh, the
minutes
minutes,
from
okay.
last month. So in the amend agenda, Gary would like to be added. Okay. We have a motion, we have a second, all in favor of approving the October 25th minutes.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Aye.
Okay, so the minutes, for some reason, are out there as approved already. I don't know how I did that. That was a mistake on my part. I'm glad that you approved them, so I don't have to go out and change it. Next is amend agenda. So there are two items on the amend agenda. One is Gary's asked to have some input, and we'll do that right after correspondence. And the other item is, you'll notice in the area called trail system, there's an item team structure for the next segment. At this point, I'm going to remove that from the agenda because we're not really ready at this point. Last month at the Township Board meeting, it was, we were given direction to begin discussions, incorporate the other committee. And in having conversations with each of the board members, there were different interpretations, and I'm not absolutely clear on the direction going forward, other than the fact that we're gonna join the two teams. But in joining the two teams, one of the things that's been made clear to me is that the grant of $100,000 from the Michigan Health Endowment Fund is really the next phase. And that grant is to the township, and so the township needs to make sure that they manage that according to all of the items that are in the grant itself. And so I'm trying to build an absolute formal structure that's really clearly delineates what everybody's responsibilities are. And that includes whether they're voting members, whether they're not voting members, et cetera. And I'm not comfortable at this point that we have that put together. So there's either going to be another meeting where I think get the consensus of all the board members so that when we go to the next board meeting, it's not rubber stamped, but there's been a consensus beforehand as opposed to a lot of debate. Frankly, I'm not going to expose myself to any more of that kind of debate in the public forum. I want to make sure that we're all aligned, both teams, before we go forward. So I'm removing it from the agenda today. Next is public comment. So,
You still have to approve the agenda then,
oh, I have to approve the agenda.
the amended one.
Okay, so I asked the question, does everybody, is there a motion I have to make? How does that work?
Motion to approve the amended agenda. I mean,
Will
the
somebody
agenda is
make,
amended.
will somebody make the motion to approve the amended agenda?
I move that we approve the amended agenda.
Okay, and there was a second.
Second,
Okay, and all in favor?
Aye.
All right. Public comment. Joe, you're the only member from the public, so would you like to comment?
Two questions.
Okay, well,
It states on the website that the presentation that Gordy Fraser did on October 23rd was going to be made available for review by everybody, the content,
give it over.
but it's not up. And then the next question would
Would
be,
you like explanation for that first?
sure,
So, the Gordy Fraser engagement, was nearing an end when the citizens plan was, presented to the public. And, we asked Gordy Fraser to take a look at that. And so, they haven't looked at that in the same depth that they looked at all of the other alternatives, but they did look at it, and that caused the full process to be pushed back. At the last meeting, the township board meeting, when we got direction to talk to each other, combine the meeting, whatever was discussed, and I need to nail down exactly what, we've stopped everything. We're now waiting for the final report from Gordy Fraser. The most recent word that I got was that it's due this week, which would be today. And as soon as we have that, it will be posted. Well, let me say this. As soon as I have it, I will do my best to fit it into my personal schedule to put that on the website. So normally it takes me a few days to make that happen. So that's why that's not out there. At this point, the feasibility phase of that is over, other than waiting for the Gordy Fraser report. And then the next phase, which will begin after the structure is settled on, will bring in the Gordy Fraser study. And as we've said on multiple occasions, it will also include the citizen study as the basis for where we go forward, along with all of the other things that are included in this next phase, which is a very big phase. So that's question one. Question two.
well, I think it was, will the feasibility study be made available? And I guess you said that that'll be what you're waiting for.
It is.
Okay.
Any other questions? And just a matter of procedure. There are others that know this better than I, probably Michelle, but I'm told that in this format, there's public comment at the beginning, and each person is given 3 minutes and they can ask questions, but the board generally doesn't answer those questions. They take that public comment. I'm doing my best to be accommodative, as is Dave. But as we go forward, and if we find ourselves in big meetings, it's 3 minutes, say your piece, and then the next person speaks. No other public comment? Correspondence. I'm not aware of any correspondence.
We had the letter,
Okay. Remember the what?
the one you forwarded out, it's in here,
What was the subject?
it's here. About Glen Park, trees and
Well, oh. Okay, thank
as a
you. There's
seasonal resident taxpayer.
two mistakes by that. There was a letter that we received from a village member about the trails project.
And about Glen Park,
And was it that, is that the same letter?
all in one. I
Okay,
could read it very quickly if you like.
okay,
October 24, 2024, as a seasonal resident and taxpayer in Onekama Township for 12 years, I felt I needed to address this body and share my thoughts. The uniqueness and beauty of our Onekama is very important to me. I love walking the sidewalks and streets within Onekama Village and enjoy watching the fishermen at the boat launch, the children playing in the park, and especially Glen Park. Within Glen Park, there are 2 trees that fell across the pathway. Would it be possible for someone to remove this hazard? These obstructions make it difficult to explore the loveliness of nature in the park, as I do have mobility issues and use a walking stick to navigate. Please know that I do enjoy hearing the songs of the birds and watching the squirrels into hiding places as I walk through the park. I would think Glen Park should have a much larger sign to attract others to enjoy one of the most beautiful natural parks in northern Michigan. This is a real gem that is worth sharing. I am to understand there is a dedicated bicycle path along Main Street under consideration. I am not in favor of such a change. The shoulder of the road currently provides a suitable drive lane for bikes. A dedicated bike lane would eliminate the opportunity for residents and businesses to park their vehicles along Main Street. This enhancement would further reduce the village to simply a pass-through for people driving along M22. Thank you for taking the time to review my letter, and I hope you take into consideration my comments. Signed, Shirley Deemer. Hope I'm saying that right. And she lives on Main Street.
thank you. And get Anthony's out there, some movies going on. Village Township joint efforts. I know at the last village meeting, there was discussion about the Trails Committee, but John Wemlinger, who is our former representative, was on my email, and he forwarded that email to Wayne and asked Wayne to appoint someone to Parks and Rec, and if he could do it quickly, they would be here today, but not. So,
I am.
I'm sorry?
I am.
No, the appointment from Wayne has to be a member of the board.
Oh,
You're talking about the Trails Committee.
right.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about Parks and Rec.
Oh,
It's a different subject. We're up in the air with participation, but at this point, have you got a report on anything that's happening?
No, everything's on hold, waiting for whoever it is that steps up.
Okay. And then, history,
History has some good news. I finally submitted and should receive any time now our first plaque. And as you all know, this has been a dragging on project, and I am hoping to send out a letter to all the potential places that are on the list of the current walking tour, asking them if they'd like to participate and what information that they might have, and then I'll get feedback from that. We're gonna try and do it all at once. First one being Macbeth, hopefully that'll be up within, they said by the end of the month. And then the rest of them we'll try and do in a single batch to reduce the price, because it's gonna cost about half as much if we do them all at once.
is it gonna be outside?
All of them should be outside. There is a couple where there's a vacant lot. Can't remember which one it is. And so I'm not sure how we'll deal with that, but as far as I know, these plaques will all affix to the outside of the building. We are in communication with the thrift store, and they asked for the background of the plaque to not be oak, be black. So there's details, but the good news is actually we have our first big step forward, and that's a relief to me.
Happened really quickly.
Yeah, that when it finally happened. Yeah.
Okay, and then what's going on with the education program?
I've been in contact with the library. I have, and also with the intermediate school district. I was just telling Gary, I have some more ideas. Jean is gonna be really focusing on the general children's programs, but I have a program I'd like to partner with the library and the school. So that's active, but most everything else is completely on hold until February, March.
Okay. I did say that we would put Gary in front of those, and I didn't put Gary in front of those. So Gary, did you want to take your time to bring us up to date?
Yeah, I can. I don't know if anyone's aware, but the school district is, committed, it's not final yet, committed to constructing a pickleball court. You've heard of it. Yeah, that was part of the millage and proposal. I'm personally opposed to that project, and will probably vote no on it when it comes to head, and we have to vote for it, for a couple of reasons. First of all, I think it should be a joint venture with either the township or the village should have some skin in the game in terms of developing a pickleball court. Originally, when the issue of a pickleball court came up a few years ago, those people who brought the idea forward were asking the school district for just a piece of property, and they would pay for the construction and so forth. Now, the district, our superintendent wants to bear the costs 100% with the school district, and I'm kind of opposed to that. I kind of think that since it's going to provide recreation facilities for the broad community,
The community that funds them.
yeah, the village or the township should have some cost to bear on the project.
Aside from our tax dollars.
Right. Now, my second objection is we last year, we got an estimate to put up, solarize the parking garage where the buses are housed. It was a pretty minor cost to do that. And I really think that in the development of the pickleball court, that whole area down there, there's more than just a pickleball court. There's an addition of bathrooms and lighting for the whole area and improving the parking.
Is this down where the?
Where the baseball
Okay,
courts are.
I was thinking of the tennis courts, but.
Yeah, up the hill.
Went over, okay.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
to the west, which is a good thing, but I think it could, with the addition of the bathroom and the, which requires lighting, and the new lighting covering the parking lots and the fields, we could wrap that solar project into it so that we're not using any more electricity. We could be creating our own electricity by solarizing the parking garage. So I'm kind of looking for support for the solar project from the general community. And I guess I'll present that to the board when it comes time to vote on all these issues. The second issue that I have, is there any question about the pickleball and so forth?
No, I'm just personally disappointed in that, but that's fine.
Yeah. Finally, the district owns 44 acres, I believe, of forested property. And I'm just throwing this idea out there. Is there any way that we could maybe join the school district in coming up with ways to utilize that property for the community and the children? We are using it there in some way because science class, I guess they go out there and they do a few activities with kids on the forested land, but I think we could be using it more. It's a good community resource, and I'm looking for ways to, join some of the activity here with that forested property.
And certainly from an educational standpoint, I can work with you on that.
Okay,
I have some ideas backed up that have been waiting for an opportunity
Okay.
like that. So. Anybody
That's
else?
it.
You just might want to check with the school to see if there's any limitations on that property. Because I know Manistee had several acres of school property, but there was some very, whoever donated it, it wasn't kind of like a deed restriction.
Right.
And so there was very specific things you could and could not do with the property. But my guess is if you're talking about having some kind of fun hiking trail or something neat for kids and community, that would probably be a good thing.
It's
Just to make sure you check.
it's 3 parcels.
Do you wanna, I'm sorry,
Okay.
do you wanna, text me a date when we can talk on the phone?
Sorry. Actually, we're very, we're not getting. Wetlands, I know that Ed has been trying to get a meeting with consumers, and it's been very difficult to get that meeting scheduled. I don't think that there's anything else, is there, Diane?
The only thing I was going to say is, the thing that our board motion on this has been put on hold because of the Alberta project fundraising. And, that, we'll find out about that on December 15th.
Oh, so we will get some sort of
Some
indication of,
news, yeah, that's coming up shortly. The last update I had on that, they did announce a week ago on radio, and they're $3 million short of their goal. That as of a week ago. So it's getting crunch time and see what happens. And
how big was the total goal?
19 million, they've got 16, so.
Very close.
Mhm.
Okay. As far as communication is concerned, I've moved Michelle to December. She was busy and she's gonna spend some time this month taking a look at it. Again, this is an effort to go out and look at the Parks and Rec website and, give me, help me if there's something that's wrong so I can fix it. I think I've got your name up there now. I think I got Ed's off. I think it's current, but again,
So, I just wanted to know if we can also make comment on the general website or the flow of two parks and such.
I only have influence on, I'm only able to update the Parks and Rec section of the website. And if we want to make some initiative to do that, that would be great. But I want to keep it separate from this because this is really just my housekeeping portion of making sure we don't look bad on the website. But what's your idea?
Better take that.
Days in a meeting, can I call you back? At 10 o'clock normally, but, well, no, 10 o'clock scheduled, normally not so, I'll call you.
I'm sorry, just the reason I'm saying that is because history is currently buried under parks, and I really think history should be pulled out and put under community. That was the big thing that I got feedback from the history people.
Okay, so let me pull that. Now Cindy, how do I do this?
I mean, we don't need to take time.
No,
on that.
I just, for my own clarification, and we have time now, since one of the things that we were talking about, should
I think you can put something on your screen.
okay, so right now, if I go to.
Did you hit like the share? At the
I thought
bottom?
you had hit share.
No, but I think you do too. Huh? Great.
I have to give them.
I did. Welcome to
So, get close to nobody. Down here, okay. I got my share. And then, select what I want to share. All right, now, I want to go to the website.
So I just do that one, that's your browser. Okay, get back to that thing. And then now, okay, but it's not, I don't know if it's the cord.
Oh, so we're not up anyway.
Well, but you're not showing on my screen, you've got to talk, which it should be showing you on the screen.
Oh, good, maybe we have the wrong HDMI.
No, I did all that. So you're not showing up here, but my point is you're not showing on my screen, so even if I project it.
How's that? Okay, so what did you just do?
There was just an.
Oh, what just happened to mine?
I know, but why is that?
I have no idea why my Onekama thing popped up.
If you're linked.
Okay, Michelle.
Something that affect you.
Okay.
So,
Oh, your screen's up, okay.
yeah, I'm good, so,
To get the history, you have to go under departments,
Okay.
Parks and Rec. I should be doing this on mine.
and then history, okay, so what
And
you
then-
would like to do
Is the
is,
community there?
where is community, right
Between
there?
departments and FAQs.
and history is there. Is it a different?
I don't know, click it, that wasn't. No, that, okay,
So,
so Ed has set that up correctly, that the history tours, that's where we want it, but we would like to have all of the history. If you go into that's, here, go back into departments, Parks and Rec. And then if you click that history there, it took you over to community.
no,
If you
it
click
did
that
not.
there, it takes you,
Onekama History Association, Pureport sites, that's all we have in there right now.
well, okay, somebody's been working on it because there was more, but anyway, all that should come out of there and go under community. All the history in one place. And I believe what they're doing right now is they're linking to the PLA website,
Okay,
which is a little clunky to me. I don't know if that's something we want to do ongoing.
but just so that everybody understands, I was given authority that when I click on Parks and Rec, I can do anything here. I can't do anything, so I can't, and I'm not saying to do it, I'm just saying I personally can't make those changes. And Cindy has been given authorization to handle planning, because I think she's also on planning. But it was Shelley and then Amber that did everything else. Mandy, as Amber's assistant, was never given authority to get on the web, and right now we have nobody that manages the web.
Well, Ed must be doing it.
Ed does it. And so we have to get Ed to do it. Of course, you know, Ed's, that's going on. So, you know, we just have to ask him to fit it in when he can fit it in.
Okay, so
So,
that was my reason for asking if we can make a comment about the old, the overall.
yeah, I mean, to me, I think we have to, it would be prudent that the whole site be looked at. But for my little purposes, I just want to make sure that we don't look bad in the departments area. And, right now, you know, the events section is essentially all of Michelle's stuff, so she's gonna tell me, Vic, get rid of 2024 events, and I'm gonna do that.
Well, let me throw this out here since we're talking about it. We have a second.
Yeah.
Al Taylor used to do all this stuff. And he felt like leaving up last year's events was wise because if somebody's browsing, they get a feel for what might be upcoming. Somehow we'll have.
That's
Does
a
anybody have any
judgment
thoughts
call,
about
yeah.
that?
Yeah.
Leaving
I
up,
think
leaving
it's
up,
fine to leave it until you post your 2025.
yeah, okay.
Okay. All right, so anyway,
So,
for the next month, I've asked every member of the team, go out there, give it a critical look, see if you see something that I'm not seeing, and then let me know. And so this is Michelle's month, and then, as you look on the agenda, everybody else has got, some time too. So now I have to figure out how to get back to the agenda.
Might be on your top bar up there.
Well, I just got, this meeting is being recorded. You can. You can drag that. Oh, okay, that's nice. And then try,
Is it in your mail or you have it open as a separate?
well, I think maybe Cindy had it, so, let's just leave it as it is right now.
What we want that up.
Yeah, but
You can stop sharing.
We're getting to that. Just ignore what's on the screen. Again, trail system, more to come on that. So last township board meeting, aside from the assignment on the trail system, the other actions were to approve the replacement of the Glen Park sign. And they postponed the building behind the township in favor of a larger building on some township property.
Oh,
What is the plan with the Glen Park sign?
The Glen Park sign is to be replaced, so we need to tell them to replace it.
I was gonna say, who's handling that? Do you want me to? 'Cause I'm in contact with him.
I'm just reporting back now that the board said, go ahead and do it.
Okay.
So any one of us can do it. You and Tom have got
Yes.
a working
He
relationship.
texts me on my phone all the time.
Okay, so now that you're BFFs, we should talk. And I think his quote was 1682, just do it according to the quote, send the quote to Mandy.
Okay,
And the board will make a decision after the fact whether they want to pursue insurance on it.
now as far as we're doing that, the suggestion from Ms. Deemer was to make the sign larger, but I think we have a standard. And Rick has been supportive of making everything standard. I don't know that we need a larger sign there. When we, anyway,
Yeah.
we'll just leave that at that.
I think
Does
we have
anybody
a
have any
plan
thoughts
for
about making the
consistent
sign?
signs, so we'll stay with the plan for
Is that the
consistent.
sign somebody ran over or something?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay, and you heard that they postponed the building, in favor of finding one of the township lots that's and available to them and putting a larger building that's gonna accommodate them in the future. So for now, all of our Langland stuff is out in the back, as are the, volleyball nets and that sort of thing.
and all the event stuff is in Dave's barn, not my garage.
Correct. Okay, bathroom facilities. I just want to talk about this to make sure that I'm on the right page and we're on the right page. Confirm consistency with static facilities. It's my understanding that the village closes their bathroom on 11/15. Does anybody know if that's true?
Yes,
Yes.
put in a porta potty.
Okay.
And that's there now.
Okay, now, the question for this group is, should that be done at Langley? We are also consistent in that we're closing on 11/15, so we do have consistency. And one of the things we talked about in the past is whether it's village or township, people don't know, so let's be consistent. So we are consistent, but we do not have a porta potty. And what I would pose to the group is, we're talking about budget this month. If we want to put a porta potty out there, we should include that in the budget. And
The winter?
she wants, yeah,
Well, is there one that you could somehow stake down to the ground? Cause they all blew over and man, there was like 4 porta potties out in the street from that wind. So I just wanna make sure.
it's only a problem if you're in it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not opposed to it. I just wanna make sure somehow that it doesn't,
Could they anchor
Yeah.
to the bike thing?
I don't know. You just need to make sure it's.
So here's my thought is, let's include this as a budget discussion, because besides paying for a porta potty, we would need to include things like anchoring it down and that sort of thing. And we have to get a new contract with Anthony's or whoever our provider is to plow, because that's plowed by the county road commission, and they do not plow to the porta potty. They just do a big circle out there and come back. So Anthony's or another vendor would have to come in and plow to the porta potty to actually make it useful and to allow the company that cleans it to actually get to it. So to me, that becomes a discussion a little bit later when we're talking about our budget. And that would be, to me, in our operating budget, which is something that I'll try to manage unless it's something new, which I want the team to tell me we should go forward with.
So, the confirmed Township North Point Park is flat as being plowed. I checked with Paul. He says it has not been plowed. Now, I also checked with Brett, because Brett does the loop around Andy's Point. And, he is plowing today. I didn't specifically ask him, are you plowing North Point? But he is out there doing that loop plowing.
I agree. I think that we need to bring this to the township board and ask them, because last year we've had this discussion on several occasions. And I never got a formal, okay, do a contract. So I think we need to, make a motion that we get a contract with some vendor to plow North Point Park so that the company can access the porta potty. And we'll put it in our meeting minutes and we'll bring it to the board, and they gotta give us a yay or nay, because we've had discussions, but it's not happening. So do you want to make that motion? Does anybody want to make?
I
that
will
motion?
make a motion that we follow up on the porta potty access for North Point. And I guess that would include plowing the entire parking lot or just to the porta potty. I mean, I think it'd be the whole parking lot.
So the motion is to establish a contract with a plowing vendor to plow the North Point parking lot so that there is access for parking and access to the porta potty. Does that sound right?
That's better.
You got it? Rick,
Is that, I'll second it if it was already had.
all in favor? Oh, go ahead, Michelle.
If he's not here, he's not allowed to vote. Has that been changed?
Okay, so we have bylaws that have been submitted to the township board, and in the bylaws, we've asked for an exception to the, what's the
Rule?
Michigan, no, the
No,
Michigan,
oh, NTA, yeah.
the MTA
Township
rule
Association.
that says you have to be present to have a vote. And in our bylaws, it says we have an exception to that. The bylaws have not yet been approved by the board. So is there someone else that can make a second? I will second it. Thanks, Matt. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Okay, Michelle, you're gonna capture that for me. I've got it. Okay, and also the dumpster is gone. It was gone on 11/15. We tried to time that with the final day of the employee. As far as Langland Park is concerned, recall that we have issues with all of our infrastructure out there because the sand is blowing all over it. And we've been working with the Eagle to allow us to get sand away from it because it's crushing our infrastructure. And they, to this point, have refused to allow us to do that unless we do it with a hand shovel, which is not practical. And so a couple of months ago, we had a lady from DNR attend our meeting and present some opportunities for grants. And we took her out there and she said, let me contact them and we'll see if we can't work something out. She contacted them, but it was 3 of them with her. And the net result was she came back and said, well, there's not much I can do to help. So the next step is I have to go back to trying to develop a permit that allows us to use some sort of mechanical structure on the outside of our infrastructure so that we can actually get to it and paint it and keep it from getting crushed. So I'll take that on as something that I'm working on over the next several months.
If you need help with that.
Yeah,
Nick, can I ask you something about Langland, please?
yep.
So I know historically we have issues with trash. Now that the dumpster's been removed in the off season, does that go away or do we still have incremental issues for people taking stuff out there? I don't know what the history is.
Well, since we don't have an employee reporting anymore, we have no problems.
Okay.
Okay, that was a joke. No, we generally don't have problems out at Langland in the winter time. It's just not used that much. So we have 2 trash cans that are at each of the entryways. And I would think that Mariah did a really good job this year in getting out there on a frequent basis. And when they were overflowing, getting them into the dumpster. As always, we have local people putting their trash in the dumpster, which frustrates a lot of people, but it's not overflowing. And we took the position a couple of years ago, you're always going to have that 5%. There's nothing we can do about it, but let's have the dumpster there so that we have a nice clean park. So right now, I think as far as trash is concerned, Langland's been going pretty good for the last couple of years. My only hope is that, locals don't, continue to add it to the point that it becomes overflowing, but we just have to watch that. And if we go forward with Mariah or some other maintenance employee, we'll just make sure she watches that and keeps us abreast.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Anything else on any of the parks? I don't have anything under North Point. Okay, so budget. Let's just talk about budget a little bit. Let me find the other one that I want to have. That's the revenue and expense detail. Yeah. So I was supposed to have this up. I like them. If you look at the packet for the township board meeting, you see that every one of our groups has a budget, what we spent against it, what we've got to go, et cetera. And we're in line with that throughout the year. In fact, we're in pretty good shape. The budget is broken into areas like supplies, professional services, contract services, utilities, maintenance, and then capital expenditures. As far as all of those categories that are ongoing categories, Ed gives me that document that I just showed you along with the recap. And I looked through all of the spending to see, did it get spent in the category that I thought it was going to get spent in, so that when I forecast for the next year, how do I do that forecasting? And as I looked through this in detail for the first time yesterday, the most recent version, it's pretty solid in terms of the spending was done and the spending that I thought in the category I thought it was going to be. A couple of exceptions were signs and that, but I'll work that out with Mandy. But as far as the broad categories, and here they are right in front of me, but in detail, we have wages. So we as a team need to decide, are we happy with the current structure, which is Jean and the number of hours that Jean works, and then Mariah or someone else in the maintenance role? And if so, do we need to add any more hours to that? Michelle offered me some email last night that said we need to raise the number of hours. Was it for Jean or was it for Mariah?
I don't know what Mariah was before. Yes, there is additional for both of them. One of the reasons being that, Jean is going to be picking up the promotion, publicity, and communication for more of the events this year, as I'm gonna be exploring new things, new events for Parks and Rec, and also trying to bolster the collaboration between the schools and parks. And I actually have a question that I'd like to bring up before Gary has to leave. If I might, can we jump to that? So
This is you want to talk about this right now?
I can't see what you have
And
there.
how do I blow this up? Do you have a?
So my question really isn't on that paper. My
Oh.
question is, when I do field trips or when we host field trips in the parks have been bearing the cost, and it's minimal, but we've been bearing the cost of field trips. One of the things that I would love to do with the land, or if we go into areas where Parks is partnering with the school on that 40 acres, doing an exclusion and doing biodiversity surveys and such like that, the costs could get, I don't know, a couple thousand. So whereas the ISD's field trip usually is under 100. But going forward, if we strengthen the collaboration between parks and the school to work on outdoor education, where does that funding come from? That's a question, the question will be more relevant.
Earlier, you said when we do things, we bury it in Parks and Rec, the expense of it.
Bear it.
Okay, but what expense was that?
When I'm doing the ISD field trip,
Okay,
there is supplies for the field trip, for the crafts, for
I'm gonna put that. in the
so
budget.
far, it's been in the supplies budget.
Okay,
We've been doing minimal collaboration, but I think gentlemen on either side of me here are interested in bolstering outdoor education opportunities and collaboration between the school district. The other thing that I should say is that they also, at the conservation district, have a dedicated education specialist for youth, so it will probably be a three-way collaboration on some of these events. Whereas the conservation district does focus on a much larger area, and we in Parks and Rec specifically focus on Onekama Township. But if we go forward and say, do something on this land that they're talking about, and we put up the fencing, we've talked about this, you and I have talked about doing, what's it called, an exclusion, right? For the deer, anyway, if, where should those dollars
But
go?
are these
Should they be-
supplies or are these infrastructure like a fence?
Okay, well, that's what I'm saying. There's supplies and then there could be infrastructure. If the infrastructure is on the property, I would assume that the school could bear that cost.
Right.
If it's supplies for a story walk, I was just talking about, does that go to parks or does that go to the school? So far, it has always gone to either me personally, because in the past, I've bared a lot, and Al and I paid for stuff. But going forward, where is the proper place to allocate those dollars?
Supplies, these are supplies for your events.
Parks versus school.
Well, I can't, we have no influence over the school budget. If if Parks and Rec feels that these are a valuable thing, we include them in the budget with a line item explanation, and we present it as part of our budget, and if the board says, I like that idea, then it's funded. Ed made the comment earlier that when he receives our budget, he wants a narrative along with it. So, with all of your supplies, this spreadsheet, I'm gonna take out the stuff that's capital and such, and I'm gonna put in the supplies area. Here it is, and here's the explanation of why we need it. We would include that in this kind of thing, and the board needs to make the decision. And if they want to get granular and say, I like that, I don't like that, that's their prerogative. If they trust that what we've done so far is good, and we trust you to do it again, then they'll give us a blanket. But to me, that's supplies. If you guys want to do some infrastructure, then they need to spend the infrastructure money.
What kind of supplies have you been?
I mean, most of the time it's minor, it's magnifying glasses, it's, paper, paint.
I mean, this district has all those kinds of things.
And in the past, sometimes I ask them to bring them, but it seems that it's cleaner if I have everything there, because especially for the special education department,
Yeah.
those teachers have so much going on that they like to show up, do it and leave and not have to think, did I bring the crayons, did I bring the?
I was just gonna ask you, have you ever explored the Manistee Superior Foundation and grants?
I have, but not for this.
Okay, because this sounds like, I think a mini grant is under 5,000 now.
Yes,
So if you, and to me, this is like, and we've done a ton of them at the school. Various things over the years. This is up their alley, outdoor education, especially through the Minger funds.
Yeah,
Those Minger funds are only for Manistee County and they're only for recreation activities. There's competition for the mini grants, the Minger funds are fairly small. And a $5,000 grant would be the funding you would need for, I would say, the course of a year of, here are the activities we'd like to do, that $5,000 grant maybe for everything. Or if you don't, up to, and let's see.
Yeah, there are sources,
$3,800.
there's sources of money that don't involve grant applications either.
so that's I mean, I'm hoping Vic is listening, because sometimes some of the people that I've worked with over this last 6 years are of the mindset, the township has these funds and the programming isn't always for school children, but programming, is for yoga and for all these other, all these programs. We do offer programs for all ages. If the township has the money, this is the one thing that is very tangible for the residents to see their tax dollars at work. Versus, I mean, you're not from the village, but so you're not our official village person, but everybody pays these taxes, and
As opposed to getting a grant.
as opposed to getting a grant, do we use, so now that's kind of added another layer in the question. Do I pursue grants? Do we just put it in the budget and have the township pay for it? Because it is a way for them to say, here's your tax dollars at work. Do I seek other funding?
Or you can say something like, hey, we work collaboratively with the Manistee Community Foundation at the school and the Parks and Rec and got this grant to cover all these expenses, which frees up this money to put a really nice bathroom in Glen Park.
Well, I am asking for a porta john in Glen Park,
But
step one.
as opposed to a night that's a porta john, make a nice one. I don't know. Those are just things, I just know in the world I came from, if you wanted something, you had to go find the money to do it.
So we have money.
Right, we didn't ever have. money.
Well, okay,
Some,
but that's a good point.
We had to go dig.
But that's a good point. I mean, it's frustrating to me to read the Massey newspaper and see how they're just doling out money all the time. That's why last year. in our
That's the
budget-
community foundation.
Correct.
That Minger funds, and I went to a ton of meetings with Minger funds. And I was administrator and athletic director, because we were getting directives to say, listen. If we can apply for a grant and get some of this funded through their sources, and we can reallocate this money to infrastructure, making the bathrooms better, or whatever the case may be, you better do it. So that's my world, and I mean, if we wanted a nickel, we're like, okay, let's start looking in the code provisions.
So these are the discussions I wanted to have today, because I asked Ed and I asked Cindy and I asked Dave for what's their view of Parks and Rec. And one of the things that Ed said to me was he would like all of our parks to really represent us the way that we want to be represented. And just as an example, he said, take a look at Feldeck. Where you have a rainstorm and it's all puddly through the parking lot. Why wouldn't we spend some money to have, this is just my words, not his, nice railroad ties, so you got a defined parking lot, get the rock in there the way it's supposed to be, so that when it rains, let's just make it nice, or,
And you could
actually paint out at Langland, make Langland look.
And you could do some of those things if you freed up some of the money.
Right. Right, and Ed's point to me was, and again, I'm just paraphrasing, I'm not speaking for him, is, come up with some sort of mid-range projects, and like mid-range where, adding more of the rigid walkway for ADA out at Langland, that's 15-20 grand. Do something like Michelle's suggestion of putting some sort of sun cover out at North Point, 10-15 grand. Give us a couple of those mid-range projects. But the base is make our parks the way they need to look to represent us the way we want to be.
That's why everybody comes here.
Right, and then give us your vision of the big things that are happening down the road and prioritize those. And of course, wetlands would be a wonderful project. Trails would be a wonderful project. Those are the big ones. And those are the things that we need to brainstorm about. But let's kind of have it in that sequence, the must-haves, let's clean, maintenance and stuff, but just the stuff that I'll do, plus your supplies. And then getting our parks the way we want them, medium projects, and then our big goals. And that would be, and I think that's kind of what we got to present to the board.
That is great feedback.
And I'd be happy to help work with you on the
I'm
grant.
excited to do that.
Yes.
I,
They're actually, I mean, if I can do it, trust me.
I've done too, so I'm with you.
The mini grants are very simple, and when they know you're coming from you're doing something for the community, especially if it's for kids and all access for older adults, which, a lot of those things are for, which is awesome. They look favorably upon those, and they're not, and again, the Minger funds are for exactly what we're talking about. They're only for Manistee County. So all that's what you're saying, they're constantly doling out money, because there's funds in there that can only be used for fun outdoor activities in Manistee County. So you're not competing against the fire guys that want a new truck or everybody else in the state. It's Manistee County specifically, and I'm gonna say it's several $100,000 a year. And so they're pushing it out the door, and they want to do things for areas. So I would be happy to work with you on those kinds of things.
excellent.
So what I would say is you include all of your expenses in the budget. And we go forward with it with a line item. And we mentioned to the board that we're, just like we're getting contributions from members of the public, we're now also going to seek but we want to get authorization so that I can begin moving forward, getting my supplies. So let's put it in the budget, and then we'll go seek,
Since it's funding.
Okay, so
As far as. School.
Okay, so should I go through you then?
Yeah.
As opposed to putting it on the teachers? Okay. I will be in touch with you by email.
We have a spreadsheet of ideas that we've had over the last several years, and I would like to get rid of some of those ideas. I would like to expand on some of those, but I want to just.
Like a brainstorming chart, yeah, cool.
So right now, the first thing on there is terrestrial invasive species and treatments, and I think that this can come off of professional services and the other, because I think you're moving forward on getting estimates for, now I don't want to put words in your mouth, but help me understand. But the board assigned us the responsibility for terrestrial invasive species in the parks. And my recollection with limited knowledge I have is that first, we have to get an estimate of what an estimate would cost. In other words, someone's got to go look at each one of the parks and how much is it cost to get us to have someone go look at all those parks? So that's budget item number one. And when that's done, there's going to be a cost for each of the parks and probably a lot of nuance below that too. Am I understanding right? There's just two components?
Yeah, terrestrial stuff is just gonna be extremely difficult because I don't think like we had Mike Gunther do Cardin. It's just it's not feasible for him, so it's gonna come back to Jim Scarlata. And Jim, I have no clue with him.
It's a responsiveness issue.
Yeah. But as far as, I think what conversation we would have had was, as my part on the invasives committee for the township, they are not gonna be handling any terrestrial species, so it's coming back to parks, but I don't think we got beyond like that with where we're at.
Right. So in the last conversation, and again, I don't have the knowledge that you have, we're back to these very basic levels. We don't even know what it would cost to get an estimate at each of the parks.
Usually with your contractors, they're gonna give you an estimate for free.
Okay, okay.
So it's just whether or not you can get a contractor out there to do the work.
It's old, but Jim did actually do not just an estimate, but a treatment plan from 3 years ago for North Point.
Yeah.
So it's possible that we could follow that same pattern with him. And that was the idea back then, but there were some side issues that.
Well, let's, what are we gonna do?
We could go back to him and
The other thing is Jim knows he's a one-man show. And I've seen his prices like get pretty high.
Yeah.
Like even when we hadn't been on the Carter Park job, I could not believe where he came in with that.
In fact, the vendor we used came in
Well-
significantly below.
Yeah, and I think that was a one-off because Mike is new. He doesn't have an applicator, he has subcontract with the applicator to do the work. And what Mike told me is he gave all the money the township gave him to a subcontractor. So.
PLA, not PLA, PLM does do terrestrial. So what are your thoughts about contacting them?
I mean, PLM is a large organization and they're gonna have seasonal crew out there. They're not gonna be super experienced using herbicide.
And that I know, because I wasn't happy with their work, but the point being that somebody would have to be there to supervise PLM supervising their.
And whether or not PLM is even willing to use the proper approach. Because in most situations, I wouldn't recommend a foliar application on most of the invasive species that you have, and that might be a little bit. I don't know if they're out cutting and treating stumps like Jim will do. Jim does it the right way, but it's just whether or not you can get him to do it, and there's a cost issue, so.
It's worth reaching out to him, don't you think?
I think so. I think it's just important that, like, it's a recurring thing, or else you're gonna lose them.
Exactly.
So my concern is timing. I have to have a budget to the board by January, and that doesn't leave me much time.
I think realistically, if you put, you could put a pretty high dollar amount in your budget and find the work for Jim to do. It's just getting him to do it when you have it budgeted.
Well, but the question then becomes.
You want an
I
estimate?
need a dollar amount to put in our budget, and the board needs to be presented. This is what you're getting for this dollar amount, and someone needs to explain why it's important for us to remove invasive species from our parks, and why should we be spending tax dollars to do it? I have no skin in the game, it's just, what's the dollar amount and who's going to present to the board?
$2,000 to get,
I don't think 2,000 is enough anymore. You're not gonna get very far. 2,000.
for just the evaluation?
I'm saying for treatment.
I'm saying for an
But
evaluation.
he's saying evaluation comes with part of the treatment.
If you want to do an evaluation only of the parts and the invasive species, and you want to be comprehensive and get a large, evaluation done for the entire park system, that does open the door for some other consultants that wouldn't be doing the treatment. And I don't
Yes.
know their cost, but I could get some names of people that might be willing to do that.
Could you get some names and costs?
I could see if I could get a rough idea, a ballpark of what it would be for them to do an inventory. I just don't know if it's out of the norm for them, because these are gonna be foresters. So,
But this is the good time of year for them to be doing an analysis from their time schedule, but it's not a good idea. It's not a good time of the year for them to be actually doing the
and
evaluation.
really,
Because I
the
talked to somebody who
foresters are
does
gonna be
recommend it.
writing plans in the winter, so they're pretty busy through the winter, and as well as timber. You have timber harvest in the winter too.
Oh.
So,
What about the Michigan Invasive Species Network? Do they do any of that, or is that just,
They're
educational?
short staffed, as far as what the work that they do, it's gonna be surveys for more endangered and threatened species. Less likely they're gonna take on surveys for, and theirs is, they have a different, philosophy on how they survey things. They don't really do contract work for anyone, so. And the Northwest Michigan Invasive Species Network, short staff, they're only focused on priority species, so they're not gonna take something like this on either. I think you'd have to go with a private sector consultant, a forester that has some experience. I know a few of them that might take that on. And I can reach out to them and see if they have any idea. And I'll just put together the parks and give them the acreage and see like, hey, if you just had an inventory for invasive species on these, what would that you could do, and do you have any idea of what it would cost?
Reasonably speaking, the best we could hope in the next fiscal year is to get an inventory of these parks. Right?
Well,
Yes.
Yes, but I would allow some money for treatment because some of it is
I
just,
need to know how much.
Yeah. And that's years ago, or?
yeah, it's varied, but,
As far as treatment goes, I think you could allocate $5,000-10,000 and you could spend it if you could get Jim to do the work.
okay.
What would $10,000 get us?
You're probably, Jim's per acre rate for, heavy infestations, is gonna be right around 1,500.
And how many acres is North Point Park?
Well, it's 60, but you're not treating the whole thing, and he has previously treated North Point Park. There's some areas we haven't.
So
If you just did Cardin, the backside of the creek, if you just did Cardin, that's probably gonna be 8,000 to 10,000. If you wanted to take care of Cardin, open up that whole backside, that's where I would guess that Jim would come in.
Would that, okay, I'm just throwing this out, would that be,
Shrub species, so
Oh.
you've got Japanese barberry,
okay.
autumn olive,
Yeah.
multiflora rose, honeysuckle, they're kind of
Just
all mixed
overgrown.
throughout.
Okay, so this is just an idea that can be shot down easily. If we were to put in the budget 2 line items, a line item for getting what you call an inventory. And then at least one, say, do the back side of the creek at Carton Park and put in 10 grand. That, we would certainly get a feel from the township board whether they have any appetite for spending that kind of money on invasive species. Now, it doesn't have to be Carton Park, it can be something, a corner of North Point, I don't care, but somehow or another, I gotta get back to practicality here. I need, what's the inventory gonna cost me, and then how much money do you want for invasive species, and we can decide where we wanna do it. All right, so can you help me with that, and you'll do it in the next 2 weeks?
The other just consideration too with an inventory, your inventory is only gonna be good for maybe 5 years at most. So if you're gonna spend the money to get an inventory done, you need to plan on working. use on it too, and then you're probably gonna have to get a new inventory done.
And I think
That's an
that's what Jim
important-
was looking for, when, in my interactions with Jim, it seemed like he wanted a more stable commitment, like we are, when he, he actually did the first inventory, at least with the 60 acres gratis, right? He did it for free, and then we didn't follow through. And so I think he was disappointed. I mean, he's kind of, overwhelmed as it is, to have a customer that's,
Wishy-washy.
right.
So, but I think that's an important footnote that we have to have in the narrative to the board. Number one, here's an inventory, but don't spend the money on the inventory unless you're actually going to do something with it at some point down the road. And for example, we've chosen one park, just as an illustration, and again, I'm using the backside of Carden, and that by itself will cost $10,000. At least at that point, we've told the story and they can make a decision. Are invasive species that important to us as a township that we want to go after it? All right, so you'll help me, go down that road.
I actually just found the report really quick. I will forward that email to both of you, so you have it.
To him, I don't need that. Okay, rigid walkway extension, $155 per linear foot, plus $420 per bench, assume 100 feet plus 3 benches. That would cost 18 grand. Should we do that at Langland? Should we make the extension down to the bottom, put a T? And again, remember that the sand at Langland changes every year. And last year we bought what we thought was enough to get down to the bottom, but because of low water, more sand came in, and now it ends halfway down the slope. So that's gonna happen again, and
And the water will rise. You
and
won't
the
need a
wa-
bunch of it.
Right, this is just, so we can plan right now, but the question is, do we as a group want to go forward, adding to Langland for the whole purpose of ADA, knowing the problems that we have on the south end, putting a perpendicular, and the perpendicular would be however long of the 100 feet that we get, that we don't need to get down the hill. So if we need 90 feet to get down the hill, we only get 10 feet this way. If we need 10 feet to get down the hill, we get 90 feet this way. Do we want to do that?
In my opinion, that is our top project that is, I guess you'd call it shovel ready. Because that is our #1 use park, and we do have an aging population. And it's a safety issue because the way that it is now, where it ends and it drops. If we call it ADA and the ADA people get down there, where do they go? I mean,
I think
even more
that's-
than the shade at North Point, that should be,
I think typically the reason they do a T like that, from my experience, is if there's an 80, like a wheelchair bound person, it gives them a way to turn around.
Yeah.
Or if there's someone helping them, they get.
Yeah, we were asked at the end, at least put 2 next to each other
For a
as a turnaround. But then we got them all in and the sand came up and here we ended. So, all right, so is there any disagreement? We should go forward with this?
the only,
I think it's a good idea, but are you looking for somebody to lead that, Vic, or just,
No, I'll call them and tell them to do it.
the
I think it's a good
only
idea.
little worry I have from past discussions is the grade. The grade can be non-ADA, it can be too steep for a true ADA. It's better than nothing.
True.
I don't know if in the estimate, you can throw in a little extra for
Rating?
making
Will
it.
that be something they would allow us to do?
Okay,
Do we want to move forward with this or not?
yes,
Okay.
Yes.
Do we want to paint the gazebo?
yes.
Okay, that may end up having to be even with all the sand around it, because I don't know what kind of luck I'm gonna have with Eagle, but I will try. North Point Park, stone surface parking on Bayview. That was something that came up in the past. What is it? Do we want to do it?
I think that I don't know, I'm the only one speaking, but I think that could actually wait. People are using it such as it is, and with the focus of the picnic tables and the possibility of having shade, possibility of having water, we're more and more focused on the other entrance. So that would be my 2
Other-
cents. I wouldn't say it's a never. If we were to say have the wetland walkway and it were somehow segueing with the North Point walkway, that then you would want it. It's a matter of timing. It's not that project's time yet.
Okay, what about North Point shaded cover for picnic tables? Your estimate is still 8,000 or?
I grabbed that and, that's a plus or minus shipping, exact measurement kind of thing, but
So it needs to be 12,000.
I hope not. No, I think that the actual, cause I sent that out to everybody, wasn't the actual sticker price 8,000 and then there's tax and shipping?
Well, there's no tax.
Oh,
There is
you're
shipping.
right.
So, so is 10,000?
Call it 10,000 and that gets it graded and maybe some stone underneath as a project. Can that be the project price?
Yeah,
Okay.
the details we'll not worry about is how much money and what are we gonna get for it? A water station,
That is not happening in 2025.
okay?
That's a 2026.
North Point Prairie installation with invasive removal, tree plus removal. Okay, we've already kind of covered that.
Yes.
Glen Bridge, okay, so
It's
I
going
mentioned,
on forever. I don't know where we go with that. We've been, I think, waiting with, Dave Meister about the contact with the people that own the land and, I've made several calls and I haven't heard anything.
yeah, I mean, do we put 60, I mean, my recollection is the engineering would be 15 to 20,000 and the bridge that they looked at in another location cost about $65,000. So right now for a bridge there, it would be $100,000. The other discussion was, can't we get the landowners to give us an easement for a small part of the property, but we've not been able to make progress on talking to that. I think just for practicality's sake and the clock's ticking, I gotta get a budget in, leave it off, but I don't wanna force that.
I would like to keep in the list the actual project that we did with Gosling Schubar as in the back of our mind, because that was an all encompassing project for Glen Park instead of
That was a $250,000 one.
correct. But if we get people with experience writing grants, and now that we have this connection with Charmaine Cleary, maybe we look at not just the bridge as a specific piece. What do you think about that? But revisiting the larger picture of making the springs ADA accessible. That was a great plan that we were only a few points short on. So,
Have we ever tried this with Minger? That's what we were just talking about.
no,
If
we have
have-
never tried that one with
If the
Maker. That's a
township
great
wants to
point.
get an easement and they're not willing to spend the money to put a bridge in, then don't make the township spend the money and put it in the budget, for the bridge, and then go apply to Minger for it.
I will do, that's not a project I can take on.
But unlike supplies, which is $5,000 or $10,000 expense, which the board is going to approve given the success of
And
that.
if they don't approve it though, then you still have the opportunity for Minger. They're not approving the project.
True, but that doesn't have to be a budget item.
Right, and I just think if it was in the budget, it at least lets Dave say, oh, yep, I still haven't done that, and now they're getting frustrated.
I will
that we
listen to
haven't made a headway on it.
Consider the following, we're gonna do, as part of our budget is maintenance. 2, getting our parks up to standard. 3, midterm projects. 4, long-term projects. This falls under a long-term project. And we should, it should be in the presentations of the board. We should grab the old thing that says it's gonna cost $250, now probably $400. And then just, this is one of the things that they've said, what do you wanna do in the long term? Make
That's
sure it's on the list, let's keep it on
That project and the Eagle View project were both beautiful projects. Trails are also a wonderful project. We do have these opportunities and the lovely thing about Glen is the school kids can walk there. There's no need for a school bus. Now, I love North Point. I love doing projects out of North Point, but I mean, you just brought up a bathroom at Glen Park. If we were able to look at that as, that's a bigger project than I was around when they were writing that grant. I don't think they thought big enough.
Okay, so right now, again, I'm back to
Long term.
practicality.
Yes.
This is a long term, and who is going to take lead on gathering the information so that it can be included in our long-term plan? Right now, I don't think we need a dollar amount with it. We just need that this is on the list.
vision.
Long-term, right, yeah. So this
I
is,
could work on that. I need some direction on it, and history with it
Yes.
too.
All right.
I'd be happy to provide.
so Glenn and Michelle. Are we putting a bathroom at Glen on the list of long-term stuff?
No, well, that's, on my list is a portage on for the high season.
Well, it's there, we already have it.
At Glen Park?
Oh,
No.
I'm sorry, Glen. Okay, so, but to me.
But yes,
So,
if
so
we
Glen
revisit
Park
the other.
falls into the kind of maintenance areas, so Portage John and Glen.
That's on my list that I
Okay,
sent somewhere.
Yeah,
yeah,
hey, could I make one small comment?
yes,
I know, when I'm hearing about Mayor, which I think is a great idea, I'm wondering if it may be prudent to put something in the budget or some level of match from the township.
Yeah, they usually want it a little,
yes, yeah,
You might wanna put a, 10 grand, 20 grand, I mean, I don't, but so that there's something demonstrated coming from the
I think it's
township.
is it 10%?
I think it's a 10%. Depends on what.
10% is the Minger match.
The other thing that I didn't think about too is that there has to be ADA.
Yeah.
So getting to,
Well, it was an ADA project.
okay,
when we
the
were-
entire trail loop
For any
was,
grant, you
Well-
make sure you put.
cause that will be the thing, if you can't get to the bridge even.
Thank you.
no public comment.
Then,
We'll go back and look at it. I don't wanna, yeah.
Alright. This is essentially just when we submit original project to grant writers, so on and so forth. Carden Bridge ADA review, we don't know, we don't have a bridge.
No, it was discussed if you were to clear the backside, then maybe we could put a bridge across.
What do you think? Would that be, I mean, I love what we did last year. It was $3 grand, $4 grand, and, at least people know it's a park now. Should we do something in the back?
So to me, this comes back to our question of geofencing. We did that project. I think there was publicity around it. Did we draw people there is my question to say that we should do more investment there. How did that go? Do we have any stats on, did people start
You
using?
know very well that we do not have any counters down there.
We don't have any counters, but, John.
I
was
saw a
working
fisherman
with the
there
woman.
and he was really happy.
Well, that was the other thing. There was a project, this goes to when I was first on the committee of just making an ADA fishing platform.
Not at Carden,
At Carden, yes.
but it's a trout stream. The trout fishermen
Yeah.
move every few minutes. So that, I would love to have that at the DNR launch. On a rainy day to have a
Oh,
covered fishing thing for kids, that would be fantastic. But I don't know what we can do at
Well-
DNR.
But hopefully we're gonna get to the discussion of counters and,
Yeah, we can. I'd like to get through this list, so
Yeah.
there is no opinion of doing anything further at Carden for right now.
I think you wait until you have an inventory of invasives.
Yeah, cause they might say 20 grand.
I think, I'd like to say, I think it's a good idea to eventually get a bridge in, so you can access what we have as parkland back
Mhm.
there. Is it's such a tiny little thing without being able to get across the
well,
creek.
it's only 250 feet squared.
Yeah,
So it really, you're seeing most of the park.
And the other thing is we don't have any parking there. That's a real problem with that park. I mean, you gotta park along the side of the road and then there's a driveway right next to it too that you kind of. But okay, so I'll put that as a Bridget card is in our long-term view of something, but we
So there's
will
a property across the street for sale along Shimkey.
across the street.
Yeah, it's down, it's like kitty corner from Cardinal a little bit, but they put like one of those sheds for, somebody could have a weekend cabin kind of thing.
I'm moving to redo parking. This is at Eagle View, improve the parking lot with clear boundaries of railroad ties or some other material and install and level gravel to prevent rain ponding. That was just a suggestion that somebody gave me. Is that something of any consequence that we want to do? My guess is, given that it cost us $4 grand at Carden last year for, just making that platform for the bench.
Why not just duplicate that whole process of putting in the gravel for the picnic? I mean, that is your first impression when you come into
That
town.
Process, finish that.
Sorry. what you did with, at Carden was beautiful, with some native planting and the, pad, would you call it,
Yeah.
underneath the picnic table, making it so you can wheelchair to the picnic table. I'm not sure that's an ADA picnic table, but duplicating that same project there would be wonderful. I do have a little asterisk that we still have to deal with the Feldex.
That's true. Even with just fixing the parking lot, we have to get that family to approve doing it. That's part of their deed. But my question is, so you're saying even more than the parking, do that platform that makes it like a nice ADA thing?
It would be a great impression as you're coming in
It's first thing you see when you come in.
to see some native planting. I don't know how, that's not my area.
Ed's point of get us up to the standards.
Make it
Correct. When
nice.
you come into town, that's the first thing you see. Let's make that beautiful.
Okay, so I'm going to include this in the budget. That cost $4,000, this year will be 5, and then you gotta figure the parking lot is another 5, so.
And what was spent on planting?
Well, if you did it there, it'd be a little bit more. Cause I think if you're gonna plant some native plants there, you could go 2 routes. You could go along the boundaries and just have more of a buffer before you get to the cattails. Or you could take like a garden approach where you have some rain gardens, and it would be a good place for some rain gardens there along the edge. But you have sod removal that you have to deal with. So it would be a little bit more than what you spent at Cardin. And Cardin, we like barely skimmed the surface.
So what is the number then?
I'd have to do some math. I would say at least. I'd say at least $2,000.
So just so everybody knows, I'm breaking this into 3 components because I've been told, or I've seen some correspondence that says that family will not allow anything done to that property at all. So I'm gonna break it into improve the parking lot with clear boundaries, add an ADA pad and table, and then third is native. And the first 2 at $10,000, the last one at 2.
Maybe a Felt Hut Memorial bench or something.
Yeah, there you go. Put
Roll
their
Rock
name on
Memorial,
it.
ADA, picnic table, dining.
A nice
Their name
idea.
is on, their name is on that plaque there, but I think that we could expand it. You know. Feldeck Memorial Garden.
Well, and also, like you were talking about fixing the parking lot, that's sort of an ADA issue too. If you pull up, you have a wheelchair bound person and there's a bunch of dips and puddles and potholes there. It's gonna be next to impossible to get out and see what you wanna do.
True, but if we do a ADA parking lot, doesn't that drag along some very specific restrictions on what kind of gravel you gotta use and all that?
It's not that hard to get that gravel though. I mean, we've done
So
it.
then I should say, in the parking lot, making it ADA compliant.
And that may be something that the Feldocs wanna hear. I don't know.
Also, that particular area might be actual easement for the road as opposed to
A
their.
portion is because we asked the county road commission to fix all the puddling and they fixed a pretty good
Piece of
portion.
it.
Yeah. Okay, got the ADA standards. With the boundaries. All right, moving on. To Eagle View path through wetland. I don't think we can take that on at this point.
With that in the long term, it's another beautiful thing, but that's definitely 5-year. Unless they're still around.
Wetland project, really, I don't know what we would include in the budget. Last year at this point, Al suggested that we include, some money for, like co-pays or matches or something like that. I don't know if you think if the sun and the stars all aligned and come January 1st, they were on board, let's move. Do you think we would have any kind of thing that would cost us money this year?
I wouldn't think so.
Okay.
Yeah, I think, they're going to draw up a plan and we're going to meet with them and a fundraising plan, and we don't even know what the structures will be, or the trail sightings or anything.
So we'll include this under the long term, along with the Glen, the bridge recurring, the wetlands, just things that are under consideration. We'll have to come back and prioritize as well. Okay, surplus properties on Bonito Way. I don't remember what that particular was.
Was that
We-
a project?
Well, we own them. Are we gonna do anything? Those are the two pieces that we kept, right? And aren't they fairly close to the ones?
Bonita Ways. Isn't Bonita,
Underwater, kind of.
Well, yeah, but, they are our properties and, at some point we talked about, yeah, I think they may even a corner abut to some of those properties that you donated.
oh, that's Bonita Way.
Comes off of.
At this
That
point,
would not
at
be
this point, we're not,
2025.
we're not gonna do anything on that right now. Okay, I don't think we wanna talk about purchase properties in the public format. What, this says solary lighting, it's probably a spelling, it's solar lighting, what, do you recall what that was? Solary lighting or
That sounds
solar?
like a Gary thing. He's not here to talk about it.
Alright, so I'm not doing anything with that. And if we talked about dark sky in the past, is there anything practical that we need to do with dark sky?
Don't have,
Again, I'm in pragmatic mode right now. We need to figure out a budget. So, okay, so I'm leaving that off. Raising all standards of parks, we've talked about that. Now I'd like to pull Michelle's up. I'm sorry we're running late. I knew this was gonna happen. Okay, this is Michelle's suggestion, and what I would like to do with Michelle's spreadsheet is many of these things are. Okay, show me what I gotta do. I think that's it. Okay, so I'm gonna blow through these really quick. And essentially what I wanna do is I wanna add a column is supplies. And if it's a supply for one of Michelle's events, unless there's somebody on this team that wants to question those, I say, we don't question, she does events, and I'll just make it a supply. And then other ones that are professional services or CapEx, let's talk about.
I do need one, if I might say, so the one that is highlighted there, it says without irrigation. So if you look at the row right above that,
Well, can we go through them one at a time?
oh, you wanna start? Okay, I thought you were gonna skip one. Okay. go ahead.
Okay, so. Cedar planning, is this part of a project with kids?
So, yes, it is. That is with the school. That is instead of Black Willow.
Supplies. That's supplies, as far as I'm concerned, supplies. Tubes, supplies,
Supplies.
stakes, supplies, irrigation.
Well, that would be a combination. That would be professional. And so I wanted to talk to Tyler. If we put these cedars in and they are small ones, I think their likelihood of surviving are pretty good. The larger ones that we planted last time seemed to need a lot more water. It was very difficult for Gene to carry the water. Do you think we need, because Paul had it priced just to see what it would be to run a line off the well, all the way around that loop? And it was 2,100, which both Paul and I thought was probably more than we would want to spend on that as opposed to carrying water. What are your thoughts about putting in irrigation to support that area's plantings versus carrying the water out?
Yeah, that's a labor question. The trees are gonna need water, so.
If we've done this, we need to support it. We don't need to volunteers carrying buckets of water. What does it cost? And let's just put this in.
That's okay, and that's the high range, because we may only be planting on one side. It could be half that.
But I would say this is more capital expenditure, because you're putting in infrastructure than.
The other avenue you could go to try and reduce and not have watering, there's still a risk, but going to potted stock versus bare root. Your cost for your trees is gonna go up significantly.
Do they have little ones?
You're probably looking at gallon pots, so they're probably gonna be 2 to 3 foot trees, but with a substantial root system and soil intact, you have a better chance of surviving drought with potted stock than you do with bare root. But that eliminates the ability to use tree tubes also, then you have to go to caging. So-
We have, that's what I priced with.
Okay, I just saw tubes, so.
I didn't change that one word, and that's the plantra, rigid mesh. tube,
Those are
tree
probably
and shrub
still
protector.
too small. So the rigid mesh are only like a 7
Oh.
or 8 inch diameter. Which is fine for bare root. But with a potted stock, you're probably gonna need to go to a cage.
You wanna
that's
just call
2 or
that
3
a-
feet in diameter. And you'd have to do a cost comparison, cause your trees, your potted trees are probably gonna be $30-$40 a piece versus $1.75.
Let's
You
stick
guys
with the
decide.
project the way
I'm
it
just
is.
calling this CapEx as something we have to decide. We're separating it
And I'm
from,
including irrigation.
I would, okay, so include the irrigation, so that puts that project at 2,600.
this one is now 2,600.
Yes, but that, once the infrastructure is there, those kids can come back every year and plant more cedars, which would be very good for that area. I mean, I can get into the details somewhere else, but
Okay, Canva software, that's a supply. Onekama Day of Service, what's that?
that is, so we have 2 plantings that we do with the older kids, with the garden club partnership is the $2,600 one we just said.
But this is plants,
This is plants, sorry.
so that's a supply, and we'll
That's a
try to get
supply.
money from Maker.
Yes,
But we'll put it in the budget as a
and
supply.
maybe Feldek would be our target.
General programming, this is just stuff, that's a supply. Yoga, that's a supply.
Well, those are
I-
professional services, aren't
No,
they?
that's contract services.
Okay. And I gave them a raise for the first time in 3 years of 10%.
Oh, you did? We have no.
I asked, let me rephrase that. Sorry.
Are you asking the township board to give them a raise?
I wrote down that as a suggestion that after 3 years, perhaps,
So this
Cover their gas.
includes a raise.
that includes a $5, yeah,
Okay, you
10%
got-
increase.
Okay, sign is supplies, baseball cap supplies, sidewalk sign is supplies, Langland display box.
Okay, that I'm really excited about is basically you look at the one in North Point and you take the legs off and you hang that on the side of the restroom. And I did talk with Bob about it. He thought that was definitely feasible. That way, that's our most popular part. We can promote whatever you want.
I don't know, is that infrastructure?
I was-
That's a sign, that's a sign.
It's a
That's-
display box.
Oh, okay.
with flyers and
Gotcha,
other
yeah,
information on
okay.
the side of the restroom at Langland.
That'd be great.
Yep, get a sign on the back. And I'm gonna bank Portage on the supply as well. Water testing, we're going forward. We have
Yes,
approval to
I
do
know.
that anyway.
I think it is
Jean
there.
is employee.
Thing.
Okay, so let's talk about Jean, the employee. Is this, we're going forward as it was last year?
The amount for Jean is an increase. We're guessing that she's gonna need an extra 50 hours of work.
And that is because you're stepping back or because she's doing more things?
A little of each.
Okay.
But mostly because I'm stepping back on the programs that are already up and running, turnkey, she's taking over. Anything, the new things I'm working on.
All right, Mariah, we've got $8,000. That's a big bump from last year.
They developed that and I'm just the pass-through of information.
So let's see what they say. Mariah helped to put our best public face forward with park cleanliness and repairs. Actual hours worked from June 1 to October 17th, 215 hours. Additional requested hours start with April 15th, which is when we open the bathroom. And instead of June, add watering into the description. And I want the employee to handle all of the counting, whether it's geofencing, whatever, that employee needs to do that as well. So, I mean, I support that. Just as background. Prior to Jean, we had a vendor who was very inconsistent. And Jean's first year, I asked her to develop a spreadsheet for all of the problems that we found at the parks. And each week updated, and they were recurring problems that never got resolved. This year, she continued with that reporting, and there was never a problem that didn't get resolved in the following week. So it's something that no one ever knows about, but the parks were clean and nice for the first time. I'm not talking about paint, I'm talking about dog poo and all that sort of stuff. So I think it went well. I think we can sell that. Sun shelter is capped. We talked about that. Inactive place.
Interactive place-based environmental education sign. I've had that on the list for a long time. That'd be something that would be 2026.
Okay, good. Water fountain at North Point Park.
2026.
2026.
And I didn't know if you wanted the history signs in there or just, I
No,
don't know.
no, history signs, I think we need to have that as a footnote because the township has the money. And we just want to keep reminding them, but it's not, well, yes, we'll keep it in there. Okay, good. So we got through that. Is there anything else?
Just did think of something.
Oh, I figured you would.
Professional development, it's not a lot of money, but, this year Ed did approve me going to one training for $80. There's a few other trainings that could be helpful.
How
A
much?
couple $100, say $300 max.
For Michelle.
Well,
Because I'm not getting any more developed than I am
but
already.
you did attend that meeting with us and that's where you met Charmaine Cleary.
Yeah,
so
I
that
thought it was
paid
a
off.
good meeting, but I'm getting old and tired. So, all right. Anything else? We're kind of running over time. Yes, we're way
Okay.
over time.
Dick, I have
Yes.
two items.
Okay.
There's been a lot of discussion on grant and there's been a lot of discussion on long-term projects. I think it'd be interesting to put a placeholder in there for grants. And not only a grant writer, but if any development work needs to be to submit for a grant. Because the likelihood of us submitting for grants next year, those dollars would be used for the following year.
So let me say this, Rick, my intention was to include the same $10,000 for grant writers that we did last year, even though we used none of it. But I
Perfect.
I do think that based on where, you know, the Trails team is going, we do need to have it in there. And while Manistee Community Foundation is something that any of us can do, we do need to have a budget for grant writers so that we can get something done that none of us have the time to do. So I'm putting the 10 grand in unless anybody doesn't want me to.
I think that's a great idea to do that.
Does that? Okay,
Go ahead.
but you said grant writer and something else. What was the something else?
Well, it would just be for grant writer and development. So let's say you wanted to do a bridge or whatever. You might have to have somebody draw up the bridge to submit that with the grant.
That's professional services. So, in professional services, last year, we put in $30,000. We used 15 grand roughly on, whatchamacallit, GFA. What do
As
we
long-
need?
As long as we've got the money in there to properly do these potential grants. And if you got
So
money in professional services, I think we're good.
Right, but how much? At this point, I got 10 grand in grant writer. In professional services. Last year, we had 30. We did, and we got approval. We used 15. Only thing that I can think of are potential trail things for professional services. But you know, and long-term, we wouldn't need to worry about the midterm projects. We don't need anything for Langland. We don't need anything for your overhead thing. Is there anything else, or should we drop it from, say, 30 to 20 and
I would do that. I would do that and have those resources available for us to support any grant work. Because
Okay,
our, go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, finish.
I think all these grant opportunities, we've had previous discussions, there's a lot of money out there. Let's put the resources behind it. That was the one. And I have a second one when we're done with this one.
All right, go.
The other thing, and Michelle mentioned it about were counters or whatever. One of the things we've talked in the past or a year ago is, okay, we're going to invest in this location. How many people are using it or not using it? And kind of help us direct our dollars through there. And I know before I started, there was initiative to have some counters in there or whatever. I think there's some value in getting some, and maybe that's a geofencing, I don't know, is to measure or get a little bit of data as we invest and to find out what's working or what's not, or maybe we're not spending enough money here or there. And I don't know if that goes in the, go ahead.
No, I totally agree with that. In fact, I'm a big data person. Let's figure out what's really going on instead of just using opinions. And we started getting a budget approval for the counters. It was recommended that we use the same counters that are used by DNR, I think.
No, Grand
Grand
Traverse.
Traverse Regional Academy. We got those. We have one set up at Glen. We have two set up at Langland. The Langland ones and the Glen ones worked great the first year. The second year, they gave terribly inflated numbers. When I talked to the vendor, they said, well, it's because you got the cameras set up incorrectly. So I went out and looked, and what had happened is all the dune grass that comes in that Eagle says we can't touch grew up there. And what he told me is in the afternoon hours, when the grass gets heated, that heat is read by the reader. That's why you're getting 50,000 people at Langland Park. So.
And all that's good education as we learn how to use these devices or whatever, but
so your point is, let's include a budget item, but as we've talked in the past, we don't have resolution to what we're going to use, whether it's geofencing or whether we're going to continue using these items we have right now. I'm saying that in the budget for employee, whoever the employee is, they're going to do it, but we as a team need to decide what we're going to do. And right now we should put something in the budget for that. Is that what you're saying?
yes, please.
How much? 5,000, 2,000, 1,000? The original three and a 3-year contract cost us $2,500. So we have 3 cameras and a 3-year contract that will expire this fiscal year. So next fiscal year, we'll need to renew it or not. So I would say $2,500 at a minimum, maybe 5, and that's just.
I would say at least 5, because if you're looking about to the point that Ed brought up is making all our parks upgraded or whatever, I'd like to eventually have some kind of measurement in each park or the majority of the parks. So I don't know what, pardon me, please?
We have 7 parks, just pointing out the number.
And how many cameras do we need to do all of them?
Well, okay, so let's talk about that. Langland is great because there's only 2 access points in and out, so you get a pretty good number there. Glen, right now, we have a counter at the bottom and it works really, really well. We have no counter at the top. Okay, so there'd be 1 more there. And then at the other parks, there's no clear pathway that they have to go in. So I think you'd kind of be forced to use that geofencing thing and then put a boundary on it. That's just my initial thought.
You could do it off the parking lot at North Point and then collaborate that information with the geofencing. Because you're right, like when I come in off of Bayview, there are some people that know that's an access point, but not many. There's people who are coming in they're coming in from every different direction if you watch the footprints.
Like if you look at Bayview, to point Michelle's point, we just talked about whether we gravel that back entrance or not. You could put a meter on that parking lot and the back parking lot and just get some reference data to start building up. My reason for how many parks is I was just trying to articulate how to get to a number. So I don't know what 5.
Agree. And for budget concern, are we comfortable with $5,000 or?
Yeah, does $5,000 give you enough? That's fine, whatever that number is. I don't know what the.
Well, I don't know. I don't know that, and we'll include this as a line item, but I do believe that within the broad categories of supplies, contract services, professionals, we have some leniency, but again, we always take these expenditures to the board anyway, so.
Gotcha.
We'll put in 5 for now. Anything else that we need to think about?
We could always.
Thank you for, those are only my 2, thank you.
Okay, I'm sorry, go ahead, Matt.
I was just saying, when we could always amend that budget at some point a little bit, I mean,
Yes.
within reason.
Yes,
Okay.
yes,
Vic, can you hear me?
yes.
This is Al Taylor. Sorry it took so damn long. It took me 2 hours to sign on to Zoom.
Oh, okay. Hi, Al.
But I do have a comment for you on the counters. How accurate do they need to be? What do we need to know the number to what level? Because that's gonna make a lot of difference in what you do. In some of the cases, we're gonna have very little traffic. So we're not really too interested in that information, I wouldn't think. We have other ones, like when I was at the Conservancy. We'd estimate how much we needed, and that was needed for the foundations to decide whether they're gonna help fund us or not. But we ended up being 3 times lower than we submitted a trail count 3 times lower than it actually turned out to be. So,
Yeah, I agree with you on level of accuracy, and to add a little color to that, on the tools that we use at Langland and stuff, you have the ability to divide the number of passes, and what we do is whatever the number, the count is at Langland, remember, it's counting warm bodies, that includes animals, and we decided to divide the number by 2 because they go in and they come out. Well, that's a guess. And then remember that they also come out and go to the bathroom and go back. So all of these numbers are rough estimates. And really, I don't think you get any value in the number itself. You get a value in the trend year over year, long term.
the
Well,
other
that's
thing to do with Langland is, if you want a better indication of who's using it, count the cars in the parking lot and how often they change. Because almost all the people, there's a few people that walk down from the yacht club and stuff like this, but most of the people drive down there.
So that would say that, with one other consideration, whoever wants to take the lead on this counting project would have to figure out how do you come up with a mechanism for counting cars. So I think there's a lot to talk about. That's why every month we never get to it, and it keeps getting postponed. But there is value in it. But for purposes of today, we're going to put it in the budget, and then hopefully someone's going to raise their hand and say, "I want to take the lead on counting." Okay, Al, any other items?
You mean any new items?
Yes.
Well, the one that is still outstanding, and I'm gonna bring it up every meeting until we either address it or I'm told not to, is fireworks in Langland Park. We got another piece of data, I think a couple of months ago, if I'm not mistaken. And that the fireworks waste in Langland Park, in the park proper, was the second highest waste stream that we had. I think it was second or third. So not only are we shooting fireworks off in the park, and not supposed to be because it's public property, and it's illegal to fire. In Michigan, it's illegal to fire fireworks in a public place. Unless it's owned by the township or something like that, and they give you permission. Otherwise, you can't do it. And we have a no fireworks policy. We brought the sheriff in at the request of one of our people that live on the border of Langland Park. We've gotten lots of complaints about the noise level, et cetera, et cetera. I'd like to at least take care of them, not getting them in the park.
Al, I can give you an update on that. I know that you brought this up several months ago. As a result of you bringing it up, I added it to the frequently asked questions on our website. Can I use fireworks in the township parks? And the answer is no. So we did what we could do. I brought it to the township board meeting, and I said that it was raised as an issue. I told them that the ordinance says that fireworks cannot be used in public spaces, but it does not specifically call out our parks. Are you asking that we bring to the township board that they alter the ordinance and specifically call out Langland Park or our parks? Well, tell me what you'd like to do and we'll move forward with it.
Well, we brought the sheriff in because he's one of the enforcers. And we asked him, what do we need to do for you to be able to enforce the public, where was it? It was in our ordinances, the public ordinances said you can't use fireworks here. He said, if you can modify those things to say that in your ordinance, then they'll enforce it. And that means when they get a call from us, they'll decide whether they've got a man or a woman to come out there and do anything about it. Before we had sheriff in, they basically said good luck with getting anybody down there. So with complaints about the garbage and with complaints about the noise, would you like to live next to Langland Park?
We will have hopefully a bulletin board where we can post that there's no fireworks in the park. That might help you. So he's got it on the website. We'll have a local, at Langland, we can post the ordinance there as well.
But then Al, did I understand you correctly? Are you asking me to ask the board to change the ordinance to specifically call out the parks?
No,
Okay, okay.
because the parks are the parks. Well, they can get that list without us having to publish them in an ordinance. The main park I'm worried about is Langland. Because that's
Yeah.
where we go to. And as a board, we reacted to the statements that the residents and the sheriff presented us. And I would think that we'd follow up on what we asked them to do, so.
When you say we, who are you referring to? I'm trying to understand the action item for this committee. I mean, right now, we've added it to our website. Michelle says if we get approval to add this storyboard or whatever we call it, that's gonna hang on the wall out there, we'll add it to that. If we don't wanna change the ordinance, I mean, what
It
else?
currently is in the ordinances, just not by name.
It's in the ordinances. There's no fireworks in public spaces. It doesn't say public spaces, including parks or including Langland or especially Langland or whatever the word it would be.
Yeah.
Well, we can post the ordinance and then next to it say that means here or something like
Yeah.
that.
So we'll do that. I just trying to understand if there's something else that you're asking us to
And
do.
it's truly an enforcement issue.
It is an enforcement.
And that's gonna be the hang up
Well,
forever.
It is with always.
it's
with
really
everything.
hard though. Rick did that study that said that we should probably have Mariah plan to work extra hours. If I recall what the study
Yeah,
that he said is 4th of July, have extra time allocated for cleanup. And have maybe an extra, well, we'll have plenty of, with the way we've been doing the garbage out there, I think there's plenty of garbage space, so it's just a matter of allocating extra cleanup afterward and having notification beforehand and having someone who's willing to actually call the sheriff.
Okay, well, are we asking then that we include a line item for extra budget, for extra cleanup during the?
No, just.
I think just scheduling
Just
it.
scheduling.
Yeah. Schedule less time on
The
Memorial
last-
Day week for 4th of July.
The one study that was done was saying leave your hours as is, but flex up. So in other words, at a low time, take hours away and then use those for 4th of July, August, or any of these high points. So it was kind of a time
Well,
management of those resources to flex to how much garbage or how much repair needed.
So whichever board member Mariah reports to, because she does not report to any of us, we're citizen volunteers. That board member needs to tell her, last year it was Bob, needs to tell her, you're going to need to drop your hours in some weeks to make sure that you have enough hours during these weeks to cover us.
Well, first of all, with the exception of Labor Day, Memorial Day, July 4th, and nothing, one other one. Those are the only legal times in Michigan that you can have fireworks. So we can't stop somebody from firing fireworks off in their yard, for example. If they're out there on July 17th to shoot off the fireworks, they're breaking the law. If they fire the same fireworks at July 4th, they're not breaking the law. So there are restrictions set by the state laws that have to be followed, and there are and we don't follow them. If you go around Portage Lake every weekend, it sounds like the 4th of July. And I don't think.
But yeah, Al, again, it's we as a citizen volunteer group in Parks and Rec can't do anything about that, so.
That's
Yeah.
a private property.
I'm trying to keep our focus on our budgeting items and the things that we need to do, and we'll do whatever we can, and we'll make sure that we add the ordinance and to the new storyboard or whatever it's called that we put out there. My final question on budget, is there anything else? I will try to compile all this stuff with Michelle's, Swanson's recap, to make sure I captured everything, to put a budget together, and Tyler's working on some stuff and all that. And I'll try in the next 30 days to get this ready for the board, and I'll try to bring it back. It brings me to the final question that we get to. Let's talk about the next meeting after I get through the next items, which are the open items that I'm gonna blow through. Is there anything else on budget?
I'm good. I appreciate you rolling it all up, Vic.
Thank you. Water supply, urban, that's something that's gonna happen down the road. We're waiting for testing to be done. and all that.
Yeah, actually, you know what? I didn't put that in here. It's $75 times 12. I'm not sure if that is on that chart or not.
Okay.
At $75, I believe, ish a month for 6 months consecutive in order to get approved for that well. And then I believe you still have to continue to monitor it. So that's $75 a month. Under,
So $75 a month times 12,
I
okay?
think I saw what it
Dick,
just.
I only got one more comment, and that comment is, I think the citizens of Onekama, town and government responses to their questions. And we're not doing that.
I'm sorry, say that again, Al?
Just by the comment that you just said, if there's a problem that the public brings to the Parks and Rec or to the township, they're expecting action to be taken on some of those. Or to be told, we're not gonna take any action, thank you very much. I don't wanna get the reputation of being a do-nothing committee from people that say, hey, we've got this problem, what can we do about it? And we just turn our backs on them. I don't agree with that.
Okay, so I'm trying to understand what is being asked of us right now. Am I to bring something to the board? And specifically, what am I to bring to the board?
Okay, what came to me was fireworks on the 4th of July, on the Onekama days, is not legal unless the township gives you specific permission to do that, and they do that with their organization. And then there's been noise complaints for fireworks going off every weekend in the summertime up to midnight. From people who's, got post-traumatic stress syndrome, dogs and pets and stuff like this, they were complaining about that. What do you want me to do? Would you like me to get a count of how many people are complaining so that we can turn it over to the township?
So, first question, I'll ask the board to help me. My first question is, these complaints have been brought to you as a member of Parks and Rec, and there is some expectation that as a member of Parks and Rec, they need an answer, right?
They came to me as Parks and Rec and a trustee. I was both.
Okay. So, I can go to the board and say that Al has received complaints about fireworks on Onekama days that are not legal and noise complaints throughout the summer. And is the board going to do something about that? Or, help me phrase the question and I'll phrase it any way that it needs to be phrased.
Right, I just think, I don't think anybody's really interested in solving the problem.
hey, Al, how about if I send you an email, that lists what we have done in response to that complaint? And so you have it, and then you can share that either on your Facebook page or with whomever you think is important, because we have taken steps. We've just enumerated several things, and as a parks committee, we are only responsible for anything within the boundary of a park. So I'll put together, an official response, based on what I've heard here. It's not really official, remember, because we're just volunteer committee, but I can,
But it's steps.
it's a steps that the parks have taken.
Within
and-
their abilities.
Yeah, within our abilities, and then you can share that, or if that's not satisfactory, then you can come back and tell us that's not satisfactory.
And I'll put whatever you put to Al on the website.
Well, first of all, to just correct one statement made, it's not one complaint, it's
No, I'm not saying that's one complaint. I'm just saying that right now we're trying to figure out what your budget item is. And I don't, we have a budget now for a bulletin board, we have a budget for signage, we have all these other things, so. We're 40 minutes late on our meeting and I'm happy to, I was gonna give you a call anyway. So I can talk to you about it.
I just want to see somebody take some action on it and not be classified.
I'm gonna send you an email with the action we've taken.
And the ones we're talking about, park is not flying over the park, they're actually fired from the park.
Okay? Got it.
Okay, open items, we talked about the water supply, we're gonna add a budget item, 75 times 12, traffic reporting, we're gonna add a budget item, and then we gotta deal with it down the road. Glen Bridge project, we've talked about where it is, so we're gonna add it as a, long-term project, and then continue to work on it throughout the year, keep it as an open item, so we don't lose visibility. Storage, the township has not come up with a solution, but they're going to come up with a solution, and I'll make sure that this stays on our open items so that they have visibility. Same is true with the bylaw revision. I'd like to have the bylaws finally approved so that I can post them on the website, and I'd like to create a page on the website that says, please join Parks and Rec and tell them all about us, and that sort of thing, and get people to start volunteering. Donation policy. The only, Ed got the following from Manistee County, which is their memorial chair thing, which is good, but I don't think it meets what.
That's not a policy.
It's not, and it's just what they do. So I think this will remain as an open item because it is an open item. History committee, the whole new entity thing has not been resolved yet, so it's an open item. And invasive species for park is an item that hopefully will get closed, but right now it's an open item. Those are all the things that I have. Public comment?
I just have one more, and it came to me a couple of weeks ago. I haven't talked with Rick about it yet, but there was several people that raised some concern about not having the trail system go from 22 out to Portage Point in. They're claiming that's a high traffic area in the summertime. And right now, with the trail systems being proposed, that's not being paid attention to.
Yeah, would you do me a favor and put that in an email to Parks and Rec? And I've committed that everything that has to do with the trails, we're gonna post on our website, and the email that Michelle referenced. If Michelle Swanson gets it in the notes, I will post that out there as something, and then I will take your comments and I will post that out there so that it's in the public record, if you'll do that for me.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Thank you, Al. Okay, Joe indicated there are no public comments, and he is the only member of the public here. My question to the group is, our meeting is always the last, you, right? I'm sorry, you are, sort of. You're acting as a member today. Our next meeting is scheduled for December 27th. All of our meetings are the final Friday of the month. It seems to work out pretty good, but November and December are always a problem. Should we do something about December 27th, or can we make it at least by Zoom? And I'm okay one way or another. I'm gonna be doing nothing but budget for the next 45 days.
I didn't hear it, Vic. Do you want to move it up? I'm sorry.
I'm just asking, will there be attendance if we do it on December 27th? Okay, Michelle won't be here, Matt won't be here, Tyler won't be here. Okay, so there is no December meeting. What do you want to do about it? What are we gonna, do you want to pick a date?
What's wrong with January?
Yeah,
Just wait till January.
Is there anything that's active?
I think Ed wanted a budget during the month of January. So I guess what I can do is I can take the notes from Michelle and your thing, and I can try to put it all together and then send it out to everybody.
Can we make a tentative date for maybe January, I don't know, like mid-January, so it gives us time to, because Ed, what's Ed's deadline?
I don't think, has he published a deadline for the budget yet? No.
He was just talking about needing to get, numbers together from.
I mean, if we could do something, say, early to mid-January-ish, and then that way we have a couple weeks. If he says, hey, drop dead date is January 29th or something, then we have time to do some,
And so fiscal year ends March 31st,
okay.
so we're gonna need a budget approved before that.
Okay.
I would think we could do that at our March meeting.
Normally, the final is the March
So we have
meeting.
a little time. to play.
So I would think he'd have the month of February to,
Okay, so we could do something in January.
Well, we have a meeting that always.
Oh, okay,
We have a meeting the last
Oh.
Friday of January. The
Oh,
question is, what would we need to do before that?
You need to look at the budget that I come up with, see whether I figured everything out that I
Okay.
heard.
So that's not a big deal.
No,
That's
I'll let-
an easy Zoom.
Yeah, what I can do is I can again try to compile this stuff during the month of December and then send out some things. I'll use the format that the township uses, wages, I won't use social security, supplies, contract services and all that, and I'll put it all in there. And Ed wants narrative this year, so like in the supplies budget, I'll probably have a link to, you'll have your $5,000 or whatever it is, and I'll link to all that sort of stuff. And on the capital things, that's where I'll put dollar amounts in, I'll put my words in it, and then I'll ask you guys to update your words. I'll need your help on the invasive species stuff, so.
and if you need, I'm around until January, or sorry, December 23rd. If you need, I mean, I can help you out too. if you need.
I'm heading out west to hunt next week, but
Oh, okay.
I'll be back the week after that, so I'm gonna
Okay.
try, I mean, when I look at my calendar, we are now, what, the 6th, and I'm back on the 17th, so I'm gonna, oh yeah, there is Christmas.
I
isn't
think
there?
what you could do, and it's a simple thing to do, is give them our budget, the best we have in December. And let them know that there's gonna be some changes in this thing, mostly gonna be changes in the numbers, not changes in the scopes. And we'll give him those updates by February or whatever is his cutoff for that time frame. That way he's got the structure in there, he's got everything set up, he's got numbers in there, and all you gotta do is change the number when he gets a revision from us in February or March, whenever we give it to him.
That's exactly the plan. I just wanna make sure that my initial stab represents all the things that we've discussed here.
Yeah, but don't sweat too many tears over that one. Do your best you can. But let's just get it in and on his books.
Yeah, the format's really not hard. It's because, I mean, we have the format. It's, what are the categories? And they are, as I said, supplies, contract services, et cetera, et cetera. And there's just a dollar amount that we'll put in there. It's just that I want to do a bottoms up because the bottoms up will capture all the things that we want. And Ed is asking for a narrative this year. So each of those items has to have the narrative. So yeah, Al, don't worry about it. I'm gonna manage it. That's just part of my responsibilities. Okay, so no meeting on December 27th. Correspondence back and forth. Next meeting is gonna be January. So I'm gonna cancel that meeting.
That would be a work session meeting, so if you want to do a Zoom thing, you can do it really on the fly, because it wouldn't have to be.
No
posted.
actions will be taken, it'll just be like.
Yeah, it wouldn't
Like
have
a
to be
work study.
posted, so you could do it. Yeah,
So first restate that because I don't understand what you just said and then yes.
oh, I'm sorry, okay, so this is an official meeting, it has to be posted, it has to adhere to the Open Meetings Act. What you're wanting to do is get feedback for your budget information. You can make that a work session, because that is all that you're doing. No official action
You
is
can't take, you
happening.
can't take,
Action, no
Yeah,
decisions.
you're
Right.
not making motions.
Right,
it's just
exactly.
Simply a work
So
session.
whenever your schedules permit, you can schedule a Zoom meeting on the fly to get everybody's input, and it would not have to adhere to the Open Meetings Act, so it wouldn't have to be posted, so you've got scheduling flexibility.
Well, and I'm not even intending on doing a Zoom meeting. I'm intending on sending out emails and asking you to reply to me.
Got it.
that came out, I'm not sure that I agree with what Michelle said.
Yeah.
I think work sessions are still subject to the open meeting.
They are.
This is new?
Well, it was clarification, I think, but I mean, and even if it isn't, I think the township's position is that we want anytime
Mhm.
whether it's a referring committee structured, there's 3 or more people that it's hosted, just more for,
Transparency.
Can I,
yeah.
And I
you know,
can share with
and
you-
it's just our position, so I just wanted to correct that, so they could still meet by Zoom, but you'd have to post it.
The village was instructed they have to be open for public attendance.
so may I read the decision? A recent decision from the Michigan Supreme Court has significantly changed which governmental bodies are subject to the Michigan Open Meetings Act. OMA requires all meetings, decisions, and deliberations of a public body to be open to the public. The recent decision, Pine Brook Warren LLC versus City of Warren, expands which entities are considered a public body under the statute. Previously, a board committee was subject to OMA only if it had final decision-making authority on policy matters. Now, Supreme Court has held that OMA applies to any body that is effectively making the final decision, even if those decisions are ratified by a higher authority. We do not make final decisions at all.
And as I said, and again, part of my comment is the township has taken the position that work sessions should be open, they should be posted, we take minutes for them. So and in a work session for the board, you don't make decisions. I just think for the purpose of transparency, we should always be posting our meetings.
Can I?
And ask Dave. Dave may totally, or Ed may totally disagree, but I understand that.
Well, I kind of agree with that too, but I was thinking in matters of efficiency and like, okay, Ed is saying, I need drop dead date for the budget is this date, and we gotta scramble to get something done. And in order to be efficient and get that done, maybe we have to kind of do a quick study session, and if it's, and I don't know what the timeline is or whatever, but
But
I get it. I mean, but if there was a chance that we had to do something like that, I was just thinking,
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
If I understand what you're asking is, we've had this open meeting, all of this has been discussed. You're simply saying, did I write down
target.
in this what you said? Is that a meeting?
Does it look
I
like?
was responding to what Michelle's comment was.
Oh, okay,
about
no, this is a question
setting
because
up
I don't
a work
understand.
session on the fly.
Is it a
All I
work
was
session even?
responding to.
It's more of a proofreading. He's asking us to proofread.
Right, yeah,
the
there's two
document,
separate
right?
things going on. When I said I'm just sending out emails, she sort of rescinded what she had said, and Cindy was questioning what her original comment, which is, we're doing it in email, that's what we're doing. And so,
Email's not a work session.
correct.
What I do sometimes is talk to the citizens. And I know everybody does, but the feedback that we get, and we get, I got it on the board, the township board, I got it on. Several committees that we're on. We are not viewed very positively on our communications with the public. And that's because they don't see agendas for minutes, they don't see. Like I had somebody ask me where something was yesterday, and I went looking it up, and it's not there. And we're getting more scrutiny because of that. And I anticipate that scrutiny is gonna go higher. There's a large group of people that want to see more information and aren't very happy with our withholding. They think we're withholding information. Whether we're just talking about something or whether we're making decisions. They think.
Well, that's, yeah, that's a township matter as far as parks and recs are concerned. I try to get the minutes out there before the agendas before the meeting. As soon as Michelle Swanson gets me the minutes, I do my best to get it turned around within 48 hours. So I'm doing my best to make sure that Parks and Rec is transparent. If there's someone that has a complaint, I'd like them to make that complaint to me and I'll address that complaint. But at this point, we're doing our best.
You guys, what
Okay.
I'm hearing is that our best isn't good enough. We're not talking about you specifically.
Are you talking Parks and Rec or are you talking about Township Board?
Both.
Okay, well, please forward any complaints about Parks and Rec to the Parks and Rec email address. Please don't take them verbally. Ask them to send it to the Parks and Rec address. Michelle gets those and she will forward those to me. And we will include that in our correspondence and we will deal with correspondence at every meeting. So At this point, Al, if you would do me a favor, and when people complain to you, please tell them, go to the website, it's Onekama Parks and Rec, send their complaint with specifics to Parks and Rec to allow us to deal with it.
I'll do that.
Thank you. Thank you, I appreciate it.
To point it out so that you don't think I'm not trying to undermine you. But people are coming to me of their own free will and talking to me because they know I've in the past have responded and did something about it.
I would ask you to make sure that those people are told under no uncertain circumstances to stop contacting you and to take the appropriate route, which is to send their complaint to Onekama Parks and Rec so that we can deal with it.
It is.
And just to be clear, that's my email address. That's parks@onekomatwp.org. That's on the record.
If you go to the website in the frequently asked questions, it says, how do I contact Parks and Rec? And it gives them the email address. So that's all. You don't need to remember an email address. Say, go to Parks and Rec, go to frequently asked questions, and that will answer your question. Is there anything else? We have a public comment.
Okay. I'm gonna have to disagree and agree with Al. There's a lot of people that don't understand how to communicate to your email or to Parks and Rec. A lot of people surface their comments, don't want to make formal comments. And I think if you limit the input, and what Al has is good input from the general public. If you ignore that, then I'll go back to Cindy. It comes across as non-transparency. It's not just the Parks and Rec. It's not just the township. It's a village problem. It's a Manistee problem. But the more open you are, the more communicative you are, the less resistance and headwind you have to fight against. And I think that's where Al was coming from. I understand formal, you got a complaint, fill out a form. I'm sorry, people don't work like that. A lot of people in this community.
If people are not willing to stand up and say, I have a problem, then I'm not going to deal with that problem. And that's my position as a chairman. If they won't step up and say, I have a problem, then.
The other thing is they're approaching Al, I believe, much of it is through Facebook, a Facebook account that is his private Facebook account. We don't have one. I mean, Onekama.
He's giving you feedback.
Yes.
That's where he's coming from.
Yes, I understand.
Pay attention to the
We're
feedback
paying
wherever
attention
it
to it.
comes
What I
from.
would like to say is that
Public
I
union
do
is over
publicize,
at this point.
I do publicize my phone number, which I added specifically, so if people don't want to put it in writing, they can call me. And I'm doing this as a volunteer, remember? They can call me, they can email me. We don't have our own Facebook at this point. If there is someone on the committee that would like to monitor a Parks
I
and Rec
have no interest in going
Facebook,
down that road.
we would view it a little differently. But at this time, other than Al and I do talk, and he does tell me things, and I don't ignore it. And I've been putting my phone number and putting my email out there on all the flyers. I still don't get the amount of feedback that you would expect I would get, considering all the turmoil that's going on. So I'm not sure if people are just venting, or if there's actually an action they want us to take. But I'm available, and I have.
What I'll do moving forward is, Joe's right, there are quite a few people that come to me that will not come and stand up in public. They just won't do it.
That's fine.
And that's fine as far as I'm concerned. I will not, take somebody's comment that I know would be more than willing to stand up in front of the committees. They can file their information email.
Or phone call, if they wanna start with a phone call, if they don't wanna put it in writing, Al, do you know I'll give you offline when I send you the other email, I'll make sure that you have my specific to parks phone number. All the parks also have a QR code in them that says connect with parks, it brings them to the website, which is where you've set up to contact us.
It's not that,
We're doing
we
everything
haven't
we
made ourselves available, it's that they want to complain but don't want to be visible complaining.
Well,
To me, that speaks for itself. Okay, at this point, unless there's a member of this committee that would like to extend this meeting, it is adjourned. Thank you.
Happy
Yes,
holidays, everybody. Happy holidays.
Thank you.
Tyler, can we take a rain check?
If you want to.
I do, because I would like a few minutes. Sure. That. Ryan, can you take a look at this? This is the final.
I gotta
think
use-
made sense of it.
Do you want me to just set something up for the spring, Michelle?
Yeah,